A true and faithful relation to what passed for many years between Dr. John Dee and some spirits. I don't know why they have the flaming heart shot from below, but we continue the preface. This is program 6, I think. But to conclude this part, upon due consideration of the premises, and what else I have in readiness upon the same subject, if God give me life and health, I cannot satisfy myself how any learned man, sober and rational, can entertain such an opinion simply and seriously, that there be no devils, nor spirits, and etc. But upon this account which I give myself, leaving all men to their own judgments herein, that if there be any such truly and really, it must needs be because, being at first prepossessed upon some plausible ground, and being afterwards taken up with other thoughts and employments, that are more willing to stick to their former opinion without further trouble, than to take up the pains to seek further. Ekouos a iporos ois palois oi xa hasis has alhath ayas k epe a etoima malon repon os, as Thucydides doth very well observe. And when we say a learned man, there is much ambiguity in that word. For a man may be, not to speak of the ignorance of the common people, in those climates especially, who think all learning concluded in preaching, and now in these times to them best preachers, that in very deed have least learning, but preach by instinct and inspiration, as they call it. But a man, I say, may be a learned man, a very learned man in some one kind of profession, even to excellency and admiration, who nevertheless is and may be found ignorant enough in other kinds. But a general learned man is a thing of vast extent, and not often seen. It is a business of an infinite labor, besides that it requireth natural parts answerable, without which judgment specially, the more pains, sometimes more ignorance, I aim not by this at any particular man or men. Deum teftor. I would very much rather submit to the censure of others myself than to take upon me censure any, but the observation is of very good use. I know it, and may give such satisfaction in many cases, and have given an instance of it in Tertullian and some others elsewhere. I have done for this time. I come now to the objections, wherein I shall not need to be very long, because they run very much upon one thing, imposture, which has already been spoken of and answered, yet somewhat more peculiarly shall be answered. First, of miracles it cannot be denied, but the world is full of horrible impostures. In that particular, yet I believe that some supernatural things, as cures and etc., do happen in every age, for which no reason can be given, which also for the strangeness may be called miracles, but if we limit with most the word to those things that proceed immediately from God or divine power, I shall not be very ready to yield that many such miracles are seen in these days. I'm not quite used to the whole, the last word is the first word of the next page thing, so I might mess up with that at times. But I will not further argue the case in this place. Well, let us take miracles in the ordinary sense. I verily believe that many such things do happen in many places, but that through negligence, partly, and partly through incredulity, they are not regarded oftentimes, are soon forgotten, and wiser men sometimes, though they know or believe such things, yet are not they very forward to tell them, lest they bring themselves into contempt with those supposed wise men. Or you got to be humble to a degree. Perhaps it's not just supposed wise men or something. There's jealousy. There's also the thing about, are you boasting that you're having an experience? And that's kind of, causing problems there, you would think. Who would sooner laugh at anything they do not understand and take the pains to rectify their ignorance or inform their judgments. I hope I shall not do wrong to the memory of that venerable, incomparable prelate, Bishop Andrews, for sound learning and true piety, whilst he lived, one of the greatest lights of this land. If I set down 2 stories which may be called miracles, both which he did believe to be true, but for one of them it seems he did undertake upon his own knowledge, the one concerning a noted, or at least by many suspected witch or sorceress, which the devil in a strange shape did wait upon, or for rather at her death. The other concerning man, who after his death was restored to life to make confession of a horrible murder committed upon his own wives, for which he had never been suspected. Both these, as he related them to my his father, right, in familiar conversation, and my father did enter them for remembrance into some of his adversaria. In the substance, I believe there could be no mistake, but if there be any mistake in any circumstance, as of names or otherwise, that must be imputed to my father, who is a stranger, not to the tongue only, but to all business, more than what might be known by printed books in such public ways of England. First, now, if they translate it to be one thing, but if they commented on it, it'd be another thing. But just to include Latin is a bit pretentious, especially when we're not talking about something labeled as revealed, or their own experience. You have a mystical thing come and you transmit that, and but anyways, the first thus, de vetula ladinensis qui morienti diabolus affuit, mira historia quam merabat ut Phoebe, compare tissimam Dominum Episcopus fuit quadam le mulier ditissima et curiosis artibus altissima vicina adipus vulcanis. And if it ends up being Italian or something, I wouldn't know the difference too. So if I que fuit pater domini vulcanis tata Anglia Claberini atac adeo lectissima ma trana matri adjuftum vulcanis familiarissima ha per omnem vitam forlegiis datita eo nomine in famium moliere coloram amica et patrona. Qui viorienti cum adstarent qua vire qua famina gravissimi animad versum est sub horum mortis ads titis ad peds lecti hominem vultu terribilem vulpinis pellibus amictum quem ipsa contentis oclis intubatur ele ipsum quasitum est a genitor quar illum admissiset ille negara se vel vidisse tandem facidunt ad fenestram duo vel tres concilium capturi quid illo feceret erat quidam senator ingentis laminis qui vis praetor mondinensis fuit item pater vulcanis et alii placit illis ipsum compeller et roger quis asset hoc animo repetunt preora laca sua ad lectum interim la vocum magnum edit quasi animam agerat omnes illum curare spectar sublevare mox reddit axi illi ignotum illum requirunt oculis nasquam apparet ante bora spatium moratur agra. Other this, calend August narabat badi mebi rem miram reverendis prasul domin episcopa edinsis quam ille acceptum auribus suis a teste oculate actor credebat esse verissimum est vicus in urbe londindo qui dictor vicus Longobardorum in eo vico parachia est ades parachialis in qua fuit presbyter homo summa fidei. Okay, let me go back. Presbyter homo summa fidei et nata pietatis anno 1563. I don't remember how to say the numbers. Quo anno fi unquam alias pestis gresata est per hane urbem Londinum naravit igitur hec parocus et passim aliis et ipsi quoque dominum episcopa sibi hoc acadissa erat ille amicus in sua parachia insignis vir ut omnes ex estimabant probus et pius hic peste correctus advocavit presbyterum elam suum amicum qui et agrutantia assuit et vidit morientem nec decernet nisi mortuum ite demam repetiit domum suum post bores satis multas a morte bujus cum ipse pro mortu effet delictis in cubiculo uxor Elias idem cubiculum est ingressa ut ex arca praemerit laudicum sine vente amen ad ipsum en alet ut est moris ingressa audit hanc vocum aperi intenta quies hic est terrari ille et veli ingredi sed aditur iterum vox illa quis hic est ac tandem comperto esse mariti vocum accedit ad illum quid ait marit tu igitur mortuus non est et nos te pro mortuo compicitum deser veram us ego vero respondit ille vere mortuis fue, sed ita Deo visum ut anima mea rederit ad corpus, sed tu uxor a it se quid habes sibe parate da mibi esurio enim dexit illa veru ecinum habere fe pudum gelenacium et nescio quid ereud sed omnia in cocta qua breve esset peratura ego ait ele morem non fero panem habes ait et cajum quum annuesset atec pe ti isset atheri comedit spectant uxor dinde advocato presbytero et justice exir e cubiculo omnibus qui adherent narrat ille hoc ego ait vere mortuus fue fed jussa est anima redere ad juum corpus ud scillas eberirum ore meo manibus mais et misum de quo nulla unquam quiquam nota est suspicio piorem namque uxorem meam ipse acti manibus mais tanta vafriti ut omnes res lateret dinde modum perpetrats foeleris exposuit nec ita multo post expiravit ac veritum mortuus est. There is no necessity that anybody should make of either these relations an article of faith, yet I thought them very probable because believed by such a man, and therefore have given them a place here. So much of miracles. Of exorcisms we must say as of miracles, one notable example of counterfeit possession and of great stirs likely to have ensued upon it in France we have of Iuanus in our late treatise of enthusiasms, the history of the boy of Belson is extant, who by the wisdom and sagacity of the RRF and God Thomas, Lord Bishop of Lichfield and Coventry, was discovered to be an imposture, on purpose set up and stubborn to promote the Rome cause. 1620 of the Common Era. Such examples and stories most countries have afforded good store, which are extant in diverse languages, neither must it be concealed by them that seek truth without partiality, that some once called disciplinarians, now, more known by another name, have attempted to deal with those things hoping thereby to gain great advantage for their cause. Now, the whole the idea, one of the ideas that I don't think is supported is that, regard possession or not, it's not like somebody comes in and they just have more authority than you do. No, you have authority over your own body, your own mind, your own soul, more than any spirit that's going to come and whisper or take or whatever. Now, people want to just let them do whatever. There are certainly ways that people can do that, but it's still their responsibility, and they can repent or whatever and cast out the demon themselves much better than all the church authorities combined, right? Because they can't. It was a famous story in Queen Elizabeth's reign, although, perchance, out of the knowledge of many, and beyond the remembrance of any living, how one Mr. D, a very zealous man of that sect, did take upon him, by long prayers, to cast out devils, so maintained and asserted with great vehemency by him and some others that favoured that cause, though upon legal examination they proved otherwise, which occasioned many books on both sides in those days, but two Meliores Nota, as we say, written by Dr. H, concerning exorcisms, the one against Papists, the other against P. I had them both somewhere yet, I hope, but I cannot come at them at this time, which is the cause I cannot particularize that business with circumstances of times and names or persons as I would, but there were many other books written, some big, which I have seen about it, and as I said before, so that the whole business, with very little inquisition, if any have a mind, may quickly be found out. One bookseller in Little Britain did help me to the sight of 6 or 7 at once, yet one of the books then written, and, as I was told upon this occasion, much commended unto me by some very learned, to wit, Dr. Jordan, of the Suffocation of the Matrix. These abbreviations of D and J, it's of the, who do they stand for? I long sought before I could meet with it, and such was the ignorance of some booksellers, that I could not persuade them there was any such book extant, but now, at last, I have got it. All the use I shall make of it at this time is, that, whereas the whole drift of the book tends unto this, to show the error of many in ascribing natural diseases to supernatural causes, which might be thought by some to favour their own opinion, that believe not witches, etc., and making use of the books. Okay. We're supposed to pass on some knowledge in regards to our books. So, we're supposed to make some use of that knowledge in those books. So, let's do that with the author doth very prudently and piously make this profession in the preface. I do not deny but that God in these days work extraordinary for the deliverance of his children and for other ends best known to himself, and that among other there may be both possessions by the devil and obsessions and witchcraft, etc., and dispossession also through the prayers and supplications of his servants. Again, if you're going to get control back, the person who's going to get control back over their life, they got to do something. It's like all these people nowadays. It's like people in reformatories and rehab places and all this other stuff. It's not the system; it's the person that has to do the work. I mean, you can drug people into oblivion and trap them and keep them from doing bad by not allowing them opportunity. Of course, prisons aren't usually like that, but anyways, which is the only means left unto us for our relief in that case, but such examples being very rare nowadays, and etc. For Yet for all this, I do not conclude that Mr. D was guilty of any imposture. He might do it through ignorance, being cozened by others. I have heard he was an honest man, and died piously, and disclaimed to the very last that he did anything in that business otherwise than bona fide. I would judge charitably even of those men that are not guilty of much charity towards others, whose judgments and consciences will not suffer them, though men of approved worth and piety otherwise, to say as they say, and to do as they do in all things. Be it granted, therefore, that this business of exorcisms is liable to much imposture. However, no man that hath read the relations of men and women possessed, in several places, with due observation of circumstances, some of which relations, besides other persons of credit, have been attested, yea, some penned and published by learned physicians and naturalists, who have been employed about the cure, observed their carriage, heard some of them speak strange languages, silly women possessed, discourse of highest points of philosophy, are the mathematics and the like. No man, I say, that is not a stranger to these things, besides what some travellers, no way interested in the cause, can aver upon their own knowledge, will make any question either the real possession diverse according to relations that have been made of the devils speaking in them and by them when they have been exercised, and sometimes upon bare conference. And though some Protestants are of opinion that it is not lawful or warrantable for any man to take upon him to exercise upon such occasions, that is, as I conceive, by way of absolute power and authority, and by superstitious ways and means, as is ordinarily done. Yet when a man hath a calling, as if he be lawfully called to the ministry to set over such a parish, where any happen to be possessed, as indeed myself hath a parish, that is right to a parish, as good as the laws of the land can give me, which hath been grievously haunted, though not altogether in the same kind, this many years, to the undoing of many there, but I must not come near it, nor have the benefit of the law to recover my right, though never told why, and he find himself zealously moved, yet without presumption. I would not despair, but his prayers, with other performances of devotion, and the assistance of some others of the same calling, might prove available before God, but still presupposed as most expedient and necessary that the opinion and resolution of some learned and conscientious